Hello friends, welcome once again to Rick's Garage. The subject matter of today's video is using one of those bushing kits to press front wheel bearings in and out of a steering knuckle. This video is going to begin with the knuckle already out of the car and on the bench. This is a kit you'll need to press out the bearing. It has a bunch of adapters and things to fit the knuckle to press this out. This is kit number ADT 8625. It costs about $120 thereabouts. If you don't want to invest in one of these, places like AutoZone will rent you one. They call it rental. What you have to do is put a deposit equal to the value of the kit, and then when you return the kit, they will give you your money back. As you can see, I have clamped the knuckle, what I've been calling the knuckle, into my bench vise, and supporting the other end with some wood on my bench. The object here is to drive the hub out of the old bearing. We're going to damage the bearing, but we're replacing it anyway, but we've got to get that hub out of there, and there's no other way to do it. So what you'll need is a socket. Take one of my impact sockets. This is an 1 1/8" socket, and I put it there, and I am going to hit it with a hammer until we knock that hub out. Let's see how it goes. I hate banging on my sockets like this, but let's try it. Oop, it moved. Alright, that knocked out pretty easily. Very good. This is the hub that we just knocked out. If you look, it still has a race on it. This race is kind of difficult to get off. You need some type of die grinder and an air chisel or a hand chisel. If you have no way of getting this off, I suggest just buying another hub. They're only about $35, $40. As you can see, I have clamped the hub into my vise. I'm preparing to force off the race. There's two ways you can do this. One, you can cut a diagonal slot right across here and take a hammer and chisel and just break it. It'll come right off. The problem with doing it that way is you're going to damage the surface of the hub itself. It's not a major problem if you damage it. You can clean it up with a little emery cloth. This is not a sealing surface, nor is it a moving surface. It's a pressed surface. So if you do damage it a little bit, put a nick in it, do some emery cloth to clean it up, and it's okay. The way I do it is I put a little slot right here, not deep enough so I'm going into the hub, but just a little slot right there, just enough to get my air chisel something to work with, and I just drive it out with an air chisel. I'm ready to cut a little slot into the race so I can drive it out with my air chisel. At this time, probably should be wearing safety glasses. Probably should have been wearing safety glasses all along. Anytime you're using any kind of hammer or impact tool or power tool, you should have safety glasses on. So right now I've got my safety glasses on. And we're going to cut a little slot into this race. Folks, I apologize. I was not able to actually show cutting into the race. Believe it or not, just as I was about to make the cut, as you saw, I had a camera malfunction. The battery went dead, and because of the noise of the grinder, I did not hear it. So I did not get to film the actual making of the cut. But you can see the slot that I did indeed make. It wasn't that difficult. I'm now ready to attempt to drive off this race. At this point, you should still be wearing your safety glasses. And what you want to do is use a air chisel that has a little, I don't know if I got this lined up with the camera or not, a little V groove in it. That's helpful. And also it's slightly curved. Okay, I got that out enough. You can see it cracked and broke. I was expecting that. This is where this little V groove helps. Now I can get behind here and drive it the other way out. And it's off. I'm going to take this opportunity to knock out the seals. This particular knuckle has, bearing has seals. Some of the new ones do not. So I'm going to try to knock out the seal on the other side. I'm going to put a screwdriver in here on it, give it a few good whacks, and that seal came right out. Then what I'm going to do is turn the thing over and knock out the seal from the other side. If I can clamp it on something. Doesn't really matter how it's supported, I just want to get at that other seal. A lot of old grease in there. Someone had loaded it up with extra grease. These are supposed to be self-sealed bearings. You shouldn't have to do that. Let's see if I can get on that bearing from this side and knock that one out. And that one's out. So it's much easier to knock these out from the opposite sides if you saw what I was doing. I've gone ahead and cleaned this grease out with an old rag so we can access that snap ring. These snap rings aren't terribly difficult to get out. If you look, there's little slots and the screwdriver fits right into that little slot, and that's where you pry to get it up. Then you take another screwdriver and just kind of lift it around. So let's try it. I'll need a little hammer. Alright, I'm back with my hammer. Let's take the smaller of the two screwdrivers. And see, there's that little slot that I was talking about right there. The screwdriver fits right into it. You can see, by tapping it down, I'm able to get it in there, and then I can see how I'm prying that. Maybe you can see, get a little closer here. I guess that ain't working too well. Alright, so you can see I pried it up a little bit, and then I'm going to take another screwdriver and put it right under it. Oops. Didn't help that I dropped my screwdriver. Alright, so I've got that pried up, and I'm just going to work it right out by putting another screwdriver right underneath it. See how it's coming out nicely. There we have it. It's coming around. And I didn't plan on that happening, but we got it out of there. As you can see, I've repositioned the knuckle in the vise so it's now upright, so I can use the kit. It is really helpful to have a bench vise. If you don't have one, you can still do it, but it's so much easier if you've got a vise to work with. The kit has these large cylindrical adapters, and the whole object is you choose one that's bigger than the outside diameter of the bearing, and you put a cover on it, like so, and then you press the bearing from the back end and it falls into the cup. That's the idea behind it. So what you've got to do is you've got to select a cup that is larger than the actual diameter of the bearing. So we're going to look over here and see this is larger, but it there's not a lot of meat here to grab onto. So I'm not going to go that way. I'm going to take one and see if it'll fit over. This looks like this will work. This will fit there, and it's big enough for the bearing to drop into. So we've chosen this here, and now we have to get a cover to fit it. Okay, we have a cover to fit it, and now we have a a threaded rod that goes through it. And we have washers to help protect the kit. So this will go just like that. Now on the other side, we have to select a bushing that is smaller than the bore of the knuckle, but is big enough to fit the outer part of the bearing. So I'm going to reposition this camera so you can see the back. Now I've got the camera on the back side, and I've chosen a bushing that fits inside the bore, easily fits inside the bore, and will be used to press that bearing out. So I'm going to place the cup as I showed you before, and I'm putting the bearing in the bore, putting the washer on it, and I'm placing a nut on it. Okay, so this bearing hopefully will be pressed into the cup. Let me show you the side view. So this is the side view of what we're doing. We've got the cup that the bearing is going to fall into, we've got the threaded rod going through, and we've got the nut that we're going to turn on the back side. And hopefully this will press the bearing into the cup. I've moved the camera to the back view so you can see what's happening here as I attempt to force this bearing out. Like you can see, I've got it clamped in my vise. I'm going to use a 1 1/4 socket with a big ratchet, and we're going to try to slowly crank this bearing out. It's not going easy. Appears to be not going at all, but we're going to stay with it here. There we go. Now it's starting to move. It's kind of tough going at first, but you can see it's slowly moving out of there. When I did the other side, it went much easier than this. I'm having to exert a lot of force to get this thing pressed out, but it is indeed going. As I'm pressing it out, it's going easier and easier. I've seen some people online use the air ratchet for this, but I don't feel safe doing that. I probably have jammed that cup pretty good in there, so we'll have to tap it with something to get it out. But you can see how the bearing is moving out. I'm an old man here. I don't know if I'll hold up. I think I got a long ratchet. I say as it's getting close to the end, it's going a little easier now. Yep, looks like we're through. Okay, well, it wasn't easy, but we managed to do it. You can see why it's important to have a vise. That would be, you'd have to some way to really hold that thing down so you can crank that out. You almost have to have a vise.